Isn't it sad that we're heading into such a great celebration of football and those considerations have to be taken into account? Would you think twice about going to Russia? Would you think twice about friends going to Russia because of that?
It really depends on, as a player, no, obviously. Maybe as a fan, but as a player, of course, you're not going to think twice about going.
No.
However, you know, we're just preempting a situation that may not happen, and we'd like to think the authorities will deal with it if it does happen. So, in many respects, we have to wait and see what happens. The players have to concentrate on playing, and the fans, of course, have to be vigilant. But that's the same even when Liverpool fans were going to Kiev, you know, for the Champions League final.
We saw Danny Rose speaking out very publicly about his depression. We'll touch on that in just a moment. But he also said that he's got no faith in FIFA if there is any sort of racism, because he's experienced firsthand as a young England player the racism that they faced in Serbia. He's got no faith in them actually trying to combat it, trying to do anything to really, really stamp it out in certain parts of the world. Do you feel the same way as him from what you've seen, John?
Well, not just in FIFA. You look what happens in life generally. FIFA, it's a microcosm of what happens in the world. And as much as it's high profile, we want to focus on football, but if you look at the representation, proportionately, in terms of black ethnic minorities, you know, being in the high echelons of all society, and it isn't representative. It's not just about whether you hear it. So, of course, in football, it's obvious because it's about, you know, racist chanting or whatever. But in general life, people are being discriminated against. But because they're not being abused, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Now, from a footballing perspective, the England players have to concentrate on trying to win football matches.
If there is some racist chanting, should the players just walk off the pitch?
The problem you have with that when you say if there's racist chanting, because if you think to a player, if you hear anything, you should walk off the field, and only he hears one person say it, he doesn't know who that player is, how is he going to walk off? Whereas if it's 100, so it's a question of how many people. So the players can't concern themselves with that. You have to trust the authorities, and if the authorities, you know, don't do anything, then, you know, they will be taken to task. But from a playing perspective, when I'm speaking as a player, you just really have to concentrate on playing.
You've had some terrible problems in the past. Could you just shake it off?
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
It was not an issue with me whatsoever because
really?
Of course not, because how could I let ignorant people affect me? Now everybody's different. There's some black players who may feel that what they have to do is they have to fight against it, and they have to, even if they feel they have to walk off, that's fine. But we are individuals. You can't just say that black players should feel this particular way about it to then say they should walk off, they shouldn't walk off. We're all individuals. So when people ask me what would I advise black players to do, you have to do what's right for you. To seem to be frail or fragile is seen as a weakness. So in my day, you know, stiff upper lip, you get on with it. But once again, footballers are normal people, and this is a problem in society. You know, depression is a problem in society. So why shouldn't football be depressed? Because they are normal members of society, regardless of whether they're earning money, regardless of whether they're footballers or not. So, you know, people may look at this and say, oh, it's a big problem in sport. But if you go around to industries or just normal life where it isn't high profile and it isn't reported, there are thousands of people suffering with it, and they don't get a mention. You know, so when people are looking and saying, oh, it's a big problem in sport or football, it's not more so, very much like racism. It's not a bigger problem in football or in sport than it is in normal society.
Because the likes of Danny being so high profile, though, as well, and working in a global sport, for him to come out and say, actually, you'd like to think that actually helps all those other thousands that are working in different industries to say, do you know what? Even if these guys that seemingly have everything are doing their dream job, they're playing football on the greatest stage, if they're struggling, then actually it's okay for me to say I'm struggling.
That's the most important thing for me. The fact that he may raise the problem of depression, not in sport, but generally. Very much like we want to raise and highlight the problem of racism, not in football, not just in Russia, but everywhere. But unfortunately, we may just focus on racism in Russia. We may just focus on depression in sportsmen. And for me, that's not what we should do.
So you're working on a grassroots football coaching program for kids. When you're doing that, are you looking for the next soccer stars? Or are you thinking, this is what I can see soccer doing for kids on all sorts of matters, like some of the things we're talking about?
Absolutely. The FA Little Skills program that's been running for 3 years, which have supported 3 million kids to play football. They're not looking to say we're going to get professional footballers out of 3 million kids, because, of course, it's kids at primary level, girls, boys, kids who may not even be able to play. It's about getting them out there and supporting that, and it's probably more important these days, if you want to look at the highest level in terms of getting kids through to become professionals, because I suppose 20 years ago, that worked organically with local kids, whereas now, if you look at the professional level, particularly at the highest level now, there's so many foreign players coming in that a lot of these young kids aren't being given opportunities at the highest level. So, of course, the FA Skills program is just about getting kids to play, and you can see how well the England youth teams have done.
Yeah, they're doing.
You know?
Well, they're all winning
Love.
European championships.
But I have to say that
World
the FA Little Skills thing is not about getting professional footballers. It's about getting kids who can't play, girls, everybody going out having fun to get out there, because my kids are always on their iPads and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
of
So
course.
just get them outside having fun.
The World Cup starts in about 5 days now, on Thursday, John. Are we going to win it? Is England going to lift the trophy finally?
Well, you know, it's a very young and inexperienced team. And you can see they played really well last night. But with youth comes inconsistency, and we've seen sometimes they play well, sometimes they don't. And as it goes on, they will improve. So if they get to the quarterfinals, I'll be happy.